Hi everyone, today we're going to be making domino pendants with alcohol ink. First thing you're going to do is use rubbing alcohol to clean off any of the factory grime that is left on your domino. You're going to wipe what will be the top and the sides to make sure it's nice and clean. And if your hands are dirty, you can use it to clean them off as well. Okay. So some things to keep in mind before we get started are the color wheel. You want to pick colors that are either next to each other on the color wheel. I personally like 3 colors, maybe 4. If you want colors that are across from each other on the color wheel, complementary colors, that's great. You just need to make sure that they dry before you add the second color on, because when complementary colors mix, it makes brown. Okay, so to start, I'm going to do a green. I'm going to use botanical. And you want to make sure when you're using this, you do just 1 dot at a time, because as you can see, it's spreading like crazy. When you add a mixative, one of the ones that says mixative, and has the red zigzaggy at the top, you want to make sure you shake it until you hear that little mixer ball moving really well. If it sounds like it's getting stuck, you need to keep mixing. And you can see that there is a very nice chemical reaction that occurs when you add that on. It gets all iridescent and sparkly. So looking back to the color wheel, I added green. So now I'm going to do a light blue. And I'm going to do 2 dots this time since I'm doing them quite far apart. And I'm going to let them move for a minute. And I'm going to add in a darker blue up top. The pearl mixative, the one that I had already shown you, mixes really well and blends the colors. The other mixatives, not quite so much. I'm going to add in the silver so that you can see. It does mix, but not quite as nicely. So I'm actually going to add a dot of pearl on top of that. And look at that go. And I'm going to add in a little yellow. I'm going to do a little line going through with a dot of pearl in the middle. As you can tell, pearl's my favorite. I'm going to go back to the botanical, the green I started with, and try to get that little spot filled in. In art, you want to make sure that you are repeating. Repetition is good. So I think I'm going to add a little bit more yellow up here. And when you add colors that are next to each other on the color wheel, they blend really well together. You really need to be patient when you add the colors, because they mix so much. So like right here where that silver is, I don't know how well you can see that, it's getting quite mixed up. So I'm going to let that sit a second, and I'm going to come back to this one that I started a few minutes ago. So far right here I added the copper, and that's like the silver. It doesn't mix super well. And I've got 2 pinks and a yellow. So I'm going to go for, I think I'll do a red. I'll do more yellow down there. And this white one right here, let me see if I can get a better angle. That's Snowcap. So now I'm going to repeat the raspberry color that I had up top. And I'll do some flamingo. And now I'll move this one off to the side and come back to this one. And I've got a tiny spot in here that I'm going to fill in with yellow. So I'm actually going to add a darker green right in there and let it mix. So when you're all done with that, you're going to let it dry before you do anything else. Then you have, here's some that I finished a little bit ago, you have the option to leave it and not do anything. But notice how the sides aren't done. You can fill that in with a Sharpie. I find that's easier and less messy than trying to use the ink to fill in the sides. Then you can decorate. I got these fat lines with a silver Sharpie. You can also, let me get this one going, you can use white gel pen. To do little marks. I'm not sure how well you can see that. Or draw designs. Or you can do stamps. And let me see. I will do a stamp on this one. And when you're doing the stamp, you don't need to do the whole thing. You can do just part of it. So I'm going to add a snowflake. And just add that on right there. Now if I don't think that that's outlined enough, I could take a silver Sharpie or a black Sharpie and go around those edges to really make it stand out. The last thing you're going to do once the ink and Sharpie and everything dries is spray it with a very light coat of clear spray paint.